Thanks for coming back after the break. I appreciate it. I want to do some exercises now so that the information that we're talking about here, you can apply it rather than just know it in your mind. You get it from your mind into your body and into your life, because the whole idea is that you want to perhaps improve certain aspects of your own existence. But before I begin with that, I just wanted to answer a question that someone had asked during the break. And she said, if one of the first ways that you begin to get rid of the baggage and the masks and the layers that you've accumulated in your life is to become an independent thinker, what's the difference between being an independent thinker and then not thinking? Okay? That's a really good question. The difference is that independent thinking, the spark for independent thinking is intuition. So effectively, even though we're using the word thinking in there, it's actually independent feeling and backing it up with the thought process. So for example, if your grandmother said to you, don't go outside with your wet hair, you'll get pneumonia, and you thought, wow, that can't be right. It's intuition is saying that can't be right. It's not your thinking. You're not saying, well, let me talk to the scientists and the doctors, let me get some physical evidence here, let me go out twice with my hair wet, once without. You're just kind of feeling that, it doesn't sound right. It doesn't mix with what I think might be right. All right?
But I would think that sometimes if your grandmother tells you that, intuitively it sounds right. So much of what we hear today sounds right. For me, independent thinker would mean just ask yourself, what do I believe this? Let me get some clarification on this. Let me ask a doctor. Let me ask someone in authority. You've heard 1,000 things in your life that sound right, and when you begin to investigate them, they're not right. And so I don't know if it's always intuition. Sometimes it's questioning, why do I believe this?
The basis of finding the truth in your independent thinking is intuition. They go hand in hand. When I said, I'm not going to tell you whether pharmaceutical ads came first or the illnesses in the quantity that they exist came first. That's your process, is to intuit truth. Call the process independent thinking, but it's your job to intuit truth. One thing that I can tell you about truth is that it's undeniable. When you know truth, there is no doubt. To just illustrate this point for you, I saw a very brief program one time where a white supremacist was on like one of those 20/20 kinds of shows, and he was masked. You couldn't hear his voice or see his face or anything, because what he was about to say would cause great physical harm to him, possibly. And what he was talking about was that I was born and raised in this environment. Everybody I know and love, they support the idea of us being the supreme beings on earth. But something happened in my thinking where I realized that I was aligned with hatred and not with love. And when I started to discover love, I found truth. And therefore, I am living this life and educating people, and he was going into high schools and teaching kids about love rather than hatred and tolerance and acceptance as being good things to seek. But the whole idea is that there's never been a person who lives their life in love, and then all of a sudden one day they discover hatred, and they throw all the loving stuff away, and they say, you know what, guys? Everybody gather around, newspapers, everyone. I want to tell you the truth about hatred. This is where we belong. This feels right. This is really good. Let's embrace it. Because it's not truth. Truth feels right. When you stumble upon truth, it helps to erase the doubt. So that's the basis for independent thinking. Think about everything that you experience over a couple of days and find out how much of this is hogwash, how much of this is the media, how much is this your grandmother's voice echoing in your head. What is truth? So what was I going to talk about then?
But aren't there people? There are people in this world who go around and say, I'm going to introduce you to hatred.
That's because they hadn't seen love first. And that's the reason. They haven't discovered the truth yet. A person who will act in a hateful way or act in a harmful way to others was raised in an environment where they did not receive unconditional love. And, you know, I always say, you go around and find an exception. There is no exception. You might think you've discovered an exception, but the only thing you've discovered is a person who portrays their upbringing differently than actually happened. If a person is born and raised with unconditional love, they will not grow up professing the benefits of hatred later in their lives. They haven't discovered truth yet. That's why love is so important, because there are plenty of people in the world that aren't receiving love within their home environment at all. And if we can get our ideas through to them while they're still young enough to be able to grow the concepts of love and loving yourself and having self-love and being respectful and kind to others, then you have a chance of having another happy adult or another person in the world that can live a meaningful life that brings themselves and others happiness. But once that person, no matter how much hatred they saw, once they discover love, that they will know that that's the way. It feels good.
If most hatred is based on fear, how is the fear dealt with to embrace fully the idea of love?
Fear is a funny thing. Fear creates a lot of fear when we talk about it. People are afraid to even talk about fear. Fear is not as bad as we think it is, okay? So sometimes just eliminating our fear of fear helps us get a lot farther along our journey. Fear is nothing more than, if you've ever seen a handball court, you got people playing on this side and people playing on this side. This is you. This is what you want over here, all the things that you want, love, money, everything else. Your fears put up somewhat of a wall. But a lot of this stuff is going to get over the wall. And the more you can break your fears down and not focus on it, the more stuff gets over the walls. So the reason we want to just not focus on a fear as it exists is because we want the stuff to get through more easily. So if you are practicing these things where you're using your energy, like we're going to discuss in the next hour, you're doing all of this stuff, it's working. Trust me, you're drawing into your life the things that you want. You are creating your reality the way that you want. If you can't see it or feel it or touch it yet, it's just kind of, it's all here and it's growing in abundance, but it's just a little stuck. And when you start to get rid of some of those fears and doubts, it gets to come through more quickly. And the first time you get rid of your fear or your doubt and you see it coming to you, it helps you get rid of the next fear or doubt. It helps you have confidence that the fear does not have a basis. So don't fear fear, because all the things that you want are still happening. They're just not connecting with you yet, that's all. All right?